talking all things women, what they go through, the good and the bad. And today we land ourselves on body shaming. I'm really interested to uncover or unpack, this whole body shaming spectacle, because there is a lot of ways to look at body shaming. Yeah. Certainly a lot of ways to look at body shaming and a lot of perspectives about what body shaming is. Don't think I'm going online right now. You will understand that there's a lot of talk about body shaming. But we have people who have been body shamed before, especially the celebrities. And I think it really becomes a big scenario when someone who is popular or famous is body shamed. But it's only really because sometimes Muniani, my followers are Kawanda, they've got a huge following, and in turn their people sometimes are defensive and whatnot. But I'm really worried about the other the other demography of people that are not included when we speak about body shaming. So if Adele is body shamed, it's a huge spectacle online everywhere. But if my sister from Kwazana, who's not as famous as Adele, obviously, is body shamed, it's just another day. Why is it like that? So we'll speak about that and other issues as well. My guest in studio is not a stranger to the studio. Professional speaker and licensed system family counselor, amongst other titles. I chose to go with that one for today. Soto Forchiro. Good morning, Soto. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming through. Especially to help us uncover and unpack this phenomenon, body shaming. How do we peel body shaming off? How do we define body shaming?
Okay, I think I'm gonna go very simple with this.
Right.
Body shaming is basically humiliating someone or trying to pull them down based on their body and how they physically are.
Right. That's the simplest. I like it, so brief and straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
So I think that the word to highlight there is humiliating.
Exactly.
It would be prudent to move on to the reasons of such. Why would someone want to act like that? Why would someone want to humiliate someone? And this, by the way, is across the board. So from even the little kids, when they're playing, you'll find things like these happening.
Okay.
And
so
yeah.
it stems from two things. For those who know me, obviously, I don't have a big build. So naturally, I'm one person who's been body shamed for two things. Firstly, because of my stature. I'm not that big. So I remember we were in high school and people would call you things like sticks and all those other things like skinny legs, da 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 da. That one is coming from somebody trying to build their own ego. That's number one. Number two, the adults tend to normalize it. I've seen a lot of parents who would body shame their children. And the Shona, culture or language, someone is called kakawonda, or things like daf dunda, or daf korera, or matafinya, or fats, even fatso. So you find even parents will start calling their child fatso or daf dunda or dunda and that sort of thing. So it's more of a socialization, and then you find that this child is constantly being body shamed within their own family. I can literally tell you I was body shamed within my own family. I don't like to eat, literally, and I'm very picky, and people would know I don't like it. So they would use that. Literally, when you want to get to me during that time period, you'd use that. So you find things like complexion. A lot of women are body shamed because of their complexion. I've got two contrasting complexions. My face is dark, my hands are dark. I've got this condition where I get hyperpigmented, and then I tan like really fast, like Wi-Fi, for like a better word. And the rest of me is fairly lighter. So I remember I was called Miss Fanta Legs and all sorts of things. Why? Because, you know, so sometimes people are doing it because they want to build their own ego. They've got their own ego issues, so they look for somebody to pick on. And sometimes it's parents who do it because they don't know better, if I could say. And maybe they think it's going to make you think about it and maybe start eating better or start behaving better. I don't know what they're trying to achieve, which is really, really sad. So yeah, that's basically how it comes across.
It's interesting that you mention body shaming from a family perspective, where you would think this actually is the environment where you'll be shielded or covered from all these things. Are people conscious, or are family members sometimes conscious of the harm that comes with this? Or maybe you are within a family, you actually have a nickname, and we've made satire out of it, and so we just think it's normal, and yet inside you're actually saying, but why would my family be calling me this?
Exactly. It seems like they don't see the harm. It seems like they're trying to correct something, but then, well, especially when it's because maybe you're overweight or you're underweight. But look, there are other people who call their children by their complexion. For example, you would get somebody called Black Nugget because they're dark, or Tomato because they're light, or something like that. So how can you correct that? They're literally not trying to correct it. And they don't see the harm, and they don't seem really, really bothered.
So how does the body image, now I'm talking to someone who has been through this experience. For instance, you shared your experience. How does this body image then affect your mental and emotional health?
Okay. I'll talk from my work at Finex right now. I'm a clinical supervisor, but at the same time I work with Wise Owl group of schools. So I work with over 2,000 students. So when you're working with so many children from grade 0 all the way to A-level upper 6, you find that there are so many children who are body shamed to the point that they have suicidal thoughts. So when somebody is short, they cannot help it. They literally cannot change it. So the moment you can find a prefect calling another child shorty, or I had an incident where the child was saying, someone says to her, why are you so short? When are you going to grow tall like the rest of us? And
I've been asked that.
May I ask you when you're going to grow tall?
Yeah.
And how do you feel?
I think it then gets to something that, I would also want us to get into, which is now the positive image that you have about your body. Whatever your body is like, thinking about it positively can then naturally then shield you from whatever is going to come.
But you see, you're talking about maybe a 9-year-old who's being bullied because of the way they look, because of their stature, because of something that they have absolutely no control over. So yeah, you are right. We then have to build the body image. Like the work that I do then encompasses having those things where you're trying to empower this child or these children, having workshops, having events that you literally trying to teach them to say, you know what, your body is made from the image of God. You're beautiful. You're awesome. There are things that you can do that the other person can't do. But at the end of the day, the first question you asked is, how does it affect somebody's mental health? And you get people who become very suicidal. They become very aggressive. They're angry at everybody, because at the end of the day, sometimes you find they can even be angry at God, because they're then thinking, who made me to be like this?
And why am I like this?
Exactly.
So, if I get you correctly, you're saying it's only at a later stage in life where you can reason and where you can absorb any kind of pressure. Can you then, just brush it away and then say, you know what, whatever. But when you are younger, it's really now. Perhaps let me shape the question like, how can the people surrounding our children come into play in terms of shielding their children and protecting them from this sort of abuse?
Okay. The best way of doing that is, firstly, be conscious of what you say to your child. Number one, would you enjoy somebody saying that to you? Would you like for people to call you based on the way you look? And the way they say it is they frame it in such a way that it becomes a label to distinguish that negative thing, and it becomes who you are according to them. So be conscious of those things, because subconsciously you're really doing so much harm to this child. And initially you asked, you literally mentioned to say it's only when you grow older. I would say no. Sometimes, why do you think so many women bleach? Why do you think a lot of women, 20s, 30s, 40s, why do you think they bleach? It's body shaming. So when you empower this child to know they are beautiful the way they are, she is beautiful the way she is, because you find that even in that validation, in that mental health state that we say is part of the effects, you find a lot of women then, or a lot of young girls then, seek validation in the wrong places from the wrong people. And sometimes that's why you find a child becoming very promiscuous, because now whenever a person or whoever tells them they're beautiful, then they want that validation and they lean towards that person. So to protect our children, tell them how beautiful they are. Tell them to focus on the beautiful areas, the beautiful aspects, the outstanding things about them, and always make sure you affirm your child. You've got lovely eyes. Oh, I love your teeth. Oh, I love you. There's always something to love about a person, right? Why zero in on the negative?
And sometimes it's even the smallest of things that you think don't matter. Those are actually things that matter sometimes to someone, and then they can really change how they look at themselves. 3/4 of the women in Zimbabwe going to the gym without even getting scientific about it. Most of them are going to the gym because of body shaming.
True.
And so, while it's also helping them in ways, because obviously you stand a lot, when you go to the gym, but sometimes the reason that pushes you the motive, is really because someone has been laughing at me.
Yeah.
And so, I'm now working for that body.
Look at the Kardashians. Look at Revenge Body. She's going to the gym because the men body shamed her, because some sister who wasn't a sister's keeper took a man and shamed her because of her body. So she's going to the gym so that she can revenge, come back and say in your face, look,
I've got the body now,
but you don't got me.
How does, and let's talk about the part where the media comes into effect with the influence that's on social media right now. So we've got two extreme ends. We've got one end that's telling you that you cannot exist without fast food. It's you can't. It's 2023. You need wings, you need ribs, you need, what's this? They like it so much these days.
Dunked.
Dunked wings. Dunked wings. They like it so much.
I knew it.
Craving dunked wings and whatnot. So they're really, making sure that you're salivating. You want to go for the fast food. But on the extreme end, you've got so many people telling you need to be healthy, you need to go to the gym, you need to, and so there's a lot going on social media influencing how we look at ourselves and our bodies. For us men, you need the six-pack. Come on now, you need the abs,
Okay.
all that.
What can I say? I'm trying to simplify it.
Right.
Okay, so the subconscious mind, there's what we call the power of suggestion. When someone constantly suggests something, which is what the media does, it's constantly bombarding you with those things, and there's goals things, and we now are living in this era whereby I cannot eat out without actually showing that this is what I had.
They say now
I'm
that
having
the
dunked
food
wings.
eats first.
Exactly. So we also have that pressure whereby you think, okay, I also need to go there and have my own, because that's what trends, right? So is that power of suggestion. And you find that obviously because the food actually does taste amazing. It does confirm fast food tastes amazing. So at the end of the day, it's really about now you working towards it, but that's really difficult because at the end of the day, you might actually need things like CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, to move you from those things into a more healthier, lifestyle where you are very conscious of what you're going to eat. But one thing that I can tell you is don't ultimately deny yourself those things, because the more you do it, the more you actually crave it, the more you actually want it, and the more you're going to end up falling, and then you regret and you blame yourself, and then you eat some more, because sometimes there's a stress response whereby at the end of the day there are people who respond to stress by not eating, which is people like myself, and there are those who respond to stress by eating a lot. So you find that you need to be patient with yourself when you then transitioning towards this. You don't just say today stop. I wouldn't advocate for that. I would say, okay, if you were doing it every day, maybe just have it during the weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to say the gram eats first, but I said the food eats first.
Yeah.
But it's the gram that eats first.
Yeah.
I want to play the devil's advocate for like just a few minutes. We now have this scenario where you're on social media, you post your pics, yeah, and that response now triggers. In fact, before it's even social media, the whole idea of this picture that is being spread out about our bodies, the moment we take it in, yeah, and we make it part of our lives, becomes the moment it starts destroying us. Because when I then post and people are saying, your body this, your body that, what, and then we internalize it and say, so is this what my body looks like for real? And now you're thinking of ways to change yourself. Aren't we also, aren't we as sisters also to blame in terms of how we are reacting to it? Because sometimes I feel like it's also overreacting to situations where you could have blocked the noise and decided not to comment or whatever. You want to comment. You are now looking for pills, whatever it is, where you sometimes you simply just need to leave it alone.
I agree. It's a two-way system. Obviously, those that are commenting need to be a bit kinder. When someone is posting, they're posting themselves. It is a choice, really, to post yourself, and it's also a choice.
But is it not also a choice to just choose to leave that post and to go to the next?
No, that's what I'm saying. To say, you can literally look for something positive to say about a sister.
Right.
I love the color of the dress. Instead of saying, you don't have the right curves for that dress. Oh, sister, don't, that sort of thing. I don't know why we feel so mean, or we feel this need to be mean towards each other, but I think a lot of people may, to some extent, have personal issues. Maybe they are personal traumas that they are trying to project onto the next person. So I think I would say, if you feel so inclined to always say something negative about a sister, you need to ask yourself why that sister is triggering you so much. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying it's definite, but just maybe you have issues that you may need to deal with.
Talking about that, because another school of thought would then say it's very popular amongst women to find body shaming happening.
Yeah.
Because it's also popular amongst women, to just,
Woman
for
to
no
woman
particular
shaming.
reason, to just feel like,
I don't like her.
I don't like her. And so I'll say something negative about her.
Yeah.
Why is it like that?
Like I said, sometimes we remind each other of, the woman who took your man, or the woman you could never be, or I've literally found that sometimes there's a lot of jealousy, and it's just trying to make yourself feel better, because internally you have, the Bible would say, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth shall speak.
Mm-hmm.
So if you realize, or you haven't realized, but you may need to realize, that the more toxicity that comes out of you is just a reflection of what's inside of you. Because if a picture is put out there, how is it that there are people who always see negative? Always. Why? Because it's coming from inside. It's coming from who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. How do we wrap this up? How do we wrap up this conversation? I know it's a very long conversation with so many different angles, but for today, how do we wrap this up and try and find at least some way to start with this, because it's so toxic.
Okay.
It's so toxic that, some people have gone off social media. You were speaking about people having suicidal thoughts and all that.
I'll say, be your sister's keeper, right? We have people who greet people by addressing how they've lost weight, or they've gained weight. That's toxic. Don't do that. If you really are concerned and worried and want to help a sister, there are ways of doing it.
Right.
And there's a tone of use when you're doing it, and you can actually take your sister aside and have a conversation, balance that conversation, use diplomacy to really say, I'm worried. How have you been? I'm worried about your weight. You seem to have lost weight. Is something going on? Not to publicly say, you meet me at a wedding and like, you're so thin, you're still this thin, or that sort of thing. So that's number one. Number two, if people are saying you're so thin or you're so fat, also you may want to really, it's being said in a negative way, but also try to process to say, okay, people are saying this about me, is there something that I can do about it? And then you check even your BMI, and then you just check, have your doctors check, because sometimes you might be anorexic, you might be obese, and that sort of thing. If it's your skin, you have outbreaks, you might need to see a dermatologist, to see a dietitian. If it's, look for ways maybe to, even the gym that you were talking about, but maybe look for ways to gain longevity, look for ways to live healthy. And at the end of the day, like at Finex, we have what we call the 5 circles model that we use, whereby we're looking at your physical, your emotional, your behaviors, and even things like your spirituality ultimately at the end of it all, right? So sometimes you just need to get to that point where you look at your health holistically and say, okay, I've done physically, I've checked myself, I've taken care of myself physically, and then emotionally I've taken myself in terms of that, and then the evolution, I've done that, all the way up to, are you taking care of your spirituality? At the end of the day, I think that's how I would wrap up. I would say that's really what matters. Are you living healthy? Regardless of what everybody else says, that's them. They probably are trying to project their own issues, their own insecurities onto you. But at the end of the day, are you living healthy? That's what really matters.
Absolutely. Soto, thank you so much for your time. Inspiring. And I'm hoping that if you're listening, you took one or two things about this. It really doesn't cost much to post something positive about something, or just say something positive about something, about someone. But I don't know where we get the urge to just go the other way and say something negative. And one by one, that's how we plummet down, that's how we crumble. If only we could find ways of being positive and being kind to each other, then this world, I promise you, would only be a better place. That's how we wrap it up on the Sister's Keeper for this morning. There's some Tammy Moyo.
think family. Ndavagurana ndonamata Mwari mumugombore, Mwari mumutungamire, pari mepozo ataka asi mundichengetere, Baba mumukumbamire. She's so fine now, andingamusiyeka, angazvikundeka, ndikamushaiwa, andingaripindideka, andingazvikundendeka, kana matiro anondidaya, onai, 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 kana matiro anomidaya, onai, 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 kana matiro anondidaya, onai.